Come, all you young fellows who follow the sea.
Way, hey, blow the man down.
And pray pay attention and listen to me.
Give me some time to blow the man down.
I'm a deep water sailor just in front.
Hello and welcome back to Naval Action Basics. Today I'll be talking about the pathway to Pvp and Rvr competency. Although I recognize that there are other players in Naval Action who may have more experience and that I am not a PvP god, I will say that I am comfortable in both of these areas and able to hold my own against most enemy players. This guide is meant to give people who are newish some pointers on how they can become competent in PvP and Rvr in Naval Action. Before we move forward, I'd like to start off by saying thank you to the community. A few days ago, my YouTube channel reached 1,000 subscribers, and I'm so very grateful that I have such an active and responsive community supporting my content. 1,000 subscribers is a big deal, and you guys helped me get there. So thank you so very much, and I hope to keep producing these videos for a long time. Let's go over some terminology first. In Naval Action, PvP means player versus player. This acronym is used to describe battles where you're fighting an enemy that is actively thinking behind the wheel. It's not an AI, it's another person. RVR in Naval Action stands for Realm versus Realm, and it's an acronym used to talk about all things conquest related. For the purposes of this video, the RVR competency I'll be talking about is directly related to the PvP that goes on within port battles. The last term I'd like to go over before getting started is competency. What do I mean by that? This guide is not meant to give you 5 surefire ways to become an expert player in Naval Action. The reality is, there can be no such guide. This game is so extensive, it has so many different mechanics to learn and different methodologies to do it, that it wouldn't be realistic to say, if you do X, Y, and Z, you'll win every single battle. No, what I mean by competency is that hopefully, if you internalize some of these tips, you won't die within the first 5 minutes of battle. It takes practice and it takes time. But if you can start your PvP and RVR journey by learning some of these basic skills, you'll be on the right foot to start winning some battles down the road. It won't happen overnight. I'll be the first to tell you that I've lost a heck of a lot more battles than I've won. But if you keep at it and you reflect after each battle, you'll see that your ratio of wins to losses will start to change. Alright, that's enough of that. Let's get into the nitty-gritty. To get started, you'll need to learn how to sail your ships, intimately. So much can be accomplished by simply outsailing your opponent. Take a ship you want to PvP in, and attack some AI or do a kill mission. Sink the enemy ship inside the battle, and while you're fighting, pay very close attention to the way your ship is behaving. How fast does it turn at full sails? What about battle sails? What can you do if you depower and throw your sails in reverse against the wind? Can you stop yourself dead in the wind, reverse your ship, and tack out of it? All of these things you can test in the background while you battle the AI. And then once you sink the AI, don't leave the battle right away. You'll have about 15 minutes before the game mechanics kick you out of the battle instance. Now is the time that you can do some further experimentation with sailing. If you do this, not only will you get a good feel for how your ship behaves, you'll also be unlocking a few knowledge slots on your ship in the process, which will be helpful in PvP scenarios. Try to treat these battles like it's a real PvP battle. Don't sail broadside to broadside the entire time, allowing the AI to eat your side armor away for no reason. Pay attention to where the wind is coming from, and please do not sail directly downwind. That's a bad thing to do, because generally speaking, whoever is upwind can dictate the terms of the fight. Another part of this is situational awareness, knowing what your ship is doing and where it is positioned in accordance with all other ships around you, and knowing what those ships are doing all at the same time. I know that's a big ask, but I would suggest when you're in battles moving forward, you open up the map and look at the other ships. Check their health, where they are, how much crew they have, and where they're going. This way, you'll be able to prioritize targets and find friendly players that are in need of assistance, and you'll make a habit of doing it. The next tip I have for you ties in with the first one, and that is don't be in a rush to outclass yourself. Take your time learning how to fight in frigates before fully transferring to PvP and larger vessels. I know everyone sees the big line ships like the Christian and the Santissima, and they say, wow, I need to sail one of those, and then they grind their levels until they can crew one. One of the most detrimental things you can do is get into one of those ships before you're ready. If you cannot hold your own in a frigate, you will likely have an even worse time in a line ship, let alone the cost. If you're learning how to PvP, chances are you're going to be burning through ships, losing them left and right, and that's okay. Remember I said that you will lose a lot of your fights before you start to win them. It's much more cost effective to learn in frigates that are cheap to replace when compared to line ships. This isn't to say that you can't sail line ships in the meantime. Everyone has that ship that they're working towards, the one that they really want to sail and that you spend a lot of time collecting upgrades and guns for. You can still have a really nice Lotion. You just need to be wary of what battles you find yourself fighting while you learn, and you need to spend a lot of time in frigates first before you contemplate using one of those line ships every day. My next helpful tip I covered in a previous video, but I'll reiterate it here. Make sure that you're going to the daily patrol zones and hunting enemy warships near important ports. You can find areas that are likely to have enemy activity by following the money. Open up your map and hover your cursor over any port, and you'll see a daily tax figure. If that figure is 1 million or more, you'll likely find enemy ships around that port. Your target in both instances will be warships. Yes, technically you can gain some experience from sinking enemy trading vessels, but it wouldn't be the same as fighting a ship armed for combat. If you're using frigates, ships you can replace, go ahead and bring the fight to the enemy. I find that playing with an aggressive attitude and intentionally looking for a fight can really help you learn. If you want to get good at PvP, but you only fight other players when they attack your trader's brig, you're doing something wrong. And this brings me to my next point, which is self-reflection. Oftentimes, after a port battle, I'll sit in a voice channel with the other players and people will talk about what went well in the battle, what didn't go well, and what we can do to improve next time. You don't need to have an in-depth conversation after every PvP battle, but it's important to reflect on these things and prepare for the future. Otherwise, you're doomed to make the same mistakes over and over. Joining voice channels is extremely important in naval action. You simply need voice chat in order to communicate. It is super efficient, and I cannot imagine playing this game without it. Seconds count in battles, and if you're taking the time to type out your communication to your teammates, then you may be in trouble. The most common voice chats for naval action are the third-party apps TeamSpeak and Discord. Most groups I've played with use Discord for text communication and limited voice chats, but larger fleet engagements are held on TeamSpeak. I'll include a link to these applications in the video description below. My final consideration for PvP and Rvr competency is in regards to Rvr. Okay, you've done all the things I've mentioned, you feel confident to hold your own in battle. Now you need to make sure that everyone on your team is at a similar competency level. Learn how to PvP in a group, in the open world or patrol zone. This will teach you how to rely on each other to succeed as a team, because port battles cannot be won by a single player. Alright, congratulations, your team PvPs together, you've won fights, you're still learning, but you have a positive attitude and want to try port battles. Great. Here's what you'll want to do. Start with an enemy you can realistically fight. Pay attention to the other nations in the game and how well their Rvr force is trained, and start with the weakest link. Set some port battles against one of the weakest nations, and once you win a few, stop and move to the next strongest. Once you've beaten them in a few port battles, you can move on to a stronger target, always learning and internalizing what you're doing along the way. It's important to note that I'm not telling you to go curb stomp the weaker nations. That does nothing but prove you can clap some players that aren't as informed as you. Great job. No, what I'm saying is that in order to gauge where you and your team are at in your experience level, you need to start somewhere. By starting near the bottom, against one of the weaker Rvr nations, you can more easily assess where you are at and what you need to improve on. It does you no good to pick a fight against the strongest nation. No one learns when they run into a brick wall. I can attest to this. I lived through this when I played in Great Britain. The Second Swedish War, we were not ready to fight the Swedes. At that time, I think we would have had problems fighting Poland, and they have like 10 players. But GB went and started a crusade against one of the strongest RVR nations in the game, and you need only look at my videos of those port battles to see how much we learned. I'll tell ya, it sure wasn't much. Just use that as a cautionary tale. Alright, off my soapbox. A big thing with this is commitment. If you want to learn to hold your own in PvP and RVR, you need to be committed to losing. Be prepared to lose ships, to lose fleets, but also be prepared to learn. Don't get upset, mash your keyboard, and walk away. If you're sailing with some more experienced people in your team, ask them to critique you. Hey, in that last battle, I feel like I wasn't contributing much. What do you think I need to work on? I find that most people are friendly enough that they will be happy to give you pointers. Indeed, most experienced people will be glad you ask questions instead of assuming you know everything. I hope this video was enlightening and that I was able to give a few pointers that maybe you haven't thought about. Again, other players may have a different list of things that they think are more important, or they may have other methodologies. In fact, let's turn this into a discussion. If you think something should be added, or you have something you wish you knew when you first got into PvP, please comment below. If you're interested in some more hands-on training or any other game help, please check out the link to my Discord channel in the video description below. We have a lot of people on there that are interested in helping new players in the game, no matter what flag you sail. Until next time, don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel, and in the meantime, fair winds, Captains.